Okay, so Route 53 is nothing but one of AWS service which provides to manage DNS, okay, domain name service. So it is a DNS management service. It's called DNS management service. So if you would have seen, right, to get your own domain like google.com, facebook.com, or suppose my domain is ranjitswine.com. So these are the domain which we have to purchase from somewhere, okay, and then once you purchase we have to set up these domains to be accessed from the outside world. So these things, everything we can manage through route 53. So we'll see what is exactly route 53 and what are the benefits being will get it using the route 53, and how we can set up our own records. Okay, what are the records and all we'll discuss further. So let me just make it slide slow. Okay, so let's go for AWS Route 53 overview. So Amazon Route 53 is okay. Amazon Route 53 is a highly available and scalable managed DNS. That means, as we learned last classes, like RDS, Relational Database Services, that is actually one of the managed services from AWS. Similarly, Route 53 also one of the managed service from the AWS. The DNS is domain name service, right? So DNS, what is the DNS? DNS is a collection of rules and records which helps clients understand how to reach a server through URL. Suppose when you hit facebook.com, right, when you hit facebook.com is the URL, is the domain name, but when you hit facebook.com it will be resolved to an IP addresses of the server. Okay, so it will let you enter inside a server which will be hosted somewhere in any EC2 instances or anywhere, any virtual machines or any on-premises VMs or anywhere in the cloud or on-premises it will be hosted. So we can, using the host name, we can enter into the server. Now Amazon Route 53 effectively connects user requests to infrastructure running in AWS such as Amazon EC2, Elastic Load Balancers, and Amazon S3 buckets. So we'll see all in details how we can connect the Route 53, the services and URL to the different services like EC2 instances, load balancing, and S3. So then what are the records? We need to say actually when we have to connect a domain name, that domain name in the backend, there will be lots of records we'll have set up. Okay, so what are those records? Those, in AWS, the most common records are a record, okay, then four a records and name and alias. So a records, when you set up, it will be resolved to URL to IPv4 address. Okay, URL to IPv4 address. So URL, suppose ranjitswine.com, if I hit, then it will be reserved to the IP address of the server where my application or my web page is hosted. That will be reserved to that one. So for a, like, it is URL to IPv6. So when IPv6, if you have support IPv6 and if your server is having IPv6, then it will reserve to IPv6. Then canonical name, so CNAME is actually URL to URL. So we'll see like the where we use the canonical name. Suppose if you think about the facebook.com, right, when you use facebook.com, what will happen if you are using the laptop or desktop, right? So what will happen if you use facebook.com, it will connect to the Facebook server. But when same thing you are going to use in the mobile phone, okay, mobile phone, earlier it will be like it will be like either mobile.facebook.com or m.facebook.com. So if you hit m.facebook.com, it indirectly go and hit facebook.com, which is the canonical name of that server. So it will be resolved URL to URL. So m.facebook.com is one of the URL and it will resolve to facebook.com. Okay, so URL to URL. We'll see in details further each record. And the alias name is URL to AWS resource. Suppose you have hosted anything in the AWS S3 bucket, or anywhere, and you are going to provide the resource ARN of the AWS. So that time what happened? It will be resolved URL to AWS resources. Okay, so we'll see in details how it works. So what is exactly the DNS? DNS, domain name system or domain name service, is the phone book of internet. It is used to convert human friendly domain names into an IP addresses. Okay, internet protocol address. So normally whenever you have to reach a destination, what you need the address of the destination, right? Suppose this building number ABC 123, and the street number this, and this area, and whatever the pin number, you need to go there. You have to get all these details and reach the destination. Similarly, over the internet also, it works over the address. So what is this address? The IP address, Internet Protocol address. So we need to understand what exactly this IP address is, how we can reach to the particular server using the IP addresses. So if you see here, the domain name service, what it does, it converts the human friendly domain name. Suppose, so to remember this protocol, right, to remember this internet protocol or IP address will be difficult, right? So that's why the domain name, if you hit suppose ranjitswamy.com, what will happen? The web page, the web address, whenever you hit ranjitswamy.com, it will take this one ranjitswamy.com, and it will resolve to the IP addresses of the server. So I am typing suppose ranjitswamy.com in my laptop, right? When I type this one, the route 53, what it will do, it will resolve the domain name to the corresponding IP addresses set in the records, and then the same IP addresses will reach to the server. So this application server is having this IP addresses, and when I'm hitting this one, it will result to the IP address and then hit to the server. Okay, so then we need to understand further what is this IPv4 and IPv6. So IPv4 is Internet Protocol version 4, and this is IP is Internet Protocol version 6. So IP address are used by computers to identify each other on the network. Without IP addresses, we cannot reach to a computer or to a server, right? To reach a server, we need at least the IP addresses to connect. So two forms of IP addresses are there, like IPv4 and IPv6. The IPv4 actually is a 32-bit field. So if you would have seen, like every IP addresses, when we create our EC2 instances and we're giving some IP addresses in the security group, right? Whitelisting in the firewall. What you used to give, we give particular IP address with 32-bit slash. So that IPv4 is actually 32-bit field, and it has actually 4 billion different addresses, like approximately 4 billion addresses will be available. See, the usage of internet has rapidly increased. If you go like beyond 20 30 years before, right, 20 years before, will not have that much internet usage. There are very few people who were using the internet. So we're using the internet. So now if you see, there are millions and billions of people are using the internet. So that's why the IPv4 has gone, like the addresses has already been reached to the deadline. So there will be no more IPv4 addresses will be available in the future. So that's why IPv6 has come over, and IPv6 was created to solve this issue. So this 4 billion of IP addresses is covered. Like there will be no further IP address will be available to host a server. And no. So suppose I have taken one network or internet connection to my home. There will be one IP addresses to connect to the network, right? That IP addresses, suppose similarly, if more than 4 billion people has taken this internet connections and used, because everyone have one or two networks in their hand, right? Mobile phones and laptops, desktops, everywhere in their room, one or three minimum will be there, right? So it's going to be exhausted now. So that's why the IPv46 was created to solve this issue, and it has actually 128 bits of space. Here in IPv4 it was 32 bit, but in IPv6 it has 128 bits of space. It will be around 340 on decillion addresses, which is more enough to cover the entire earth. That means once the IPv4, IPv6 has come to in action, right, will not have any address issue. Will have sufficient IP addresses available because it has 128 bits of IP addresses. What it says, it's more enough to cover the entire earth. So next 100 years or more than 100 years will not have any issues with addresses. Okay, now IPv6 are, remember, alphanumeric IP addresses. Our IPv4 was what? This is IP4, right? IPv version 4, IP version 4. If you see IPv4 address, it is only decimal number. Okay, only decimal number with dots. Okay, four quadrant will be there, four quadrant, and each quadrant are 8 bits. 4 into 8, 32 bits. Okay, this 32-bit address. But if you think about this IPv6, it is actually alphanumerical. Okay, alphanumerical. So in this alphanumerical, what will happen, it will be like numeric as well as alphabet like CV, and it will be not have dot, it will have colon. Okay, it will have colon, so it will have 128 bit of addresses. That's why it provides us 340 on decillion addresses. Okay, now we'll see how these records can be set. Before going to the record setup, we need to understand what exactly the domain called, the domain and host name. So the domain is the last word in a domain name. So the domain name, when you say like suppose ranjitswai.com, so ranjitswai.com is a host name, is a DNS, okay, domain name is a DNS, but the host name will have a domain name inside it. Okay, so the Ranjit Swai will be the host name and .com is the domain name. So the last word in a domain name represents the top level domain, and the second word in a domain name is known as the second level domain. So the top level domain is like .com, .in, .gov, right? Suppose google.com. Google.com, if you see, google.com is the top level domain. Okay, if you see google.co.in, so .co will be top level, but .in will be your, sorry, .in will be your top level, and .co will be your second level. Okay, so that's, you just try to understand what is the level of domains, the top level domain and second level domain. Top level domain will be always the first digits, and then second will be your second level domain. So here .gov.in, .in is your top level domain, and .gov is your second level domain. So the top level domain controlled by internet assigned numbers, that is assigned numbers authority, that is IANA, in a root zone database. Okay, so if you go and hit this address, right, see, the root zone database, these all are the top level domains. These all are the top level domains. .a, .sc, .com, anything, whatever you want, is just you'll find it out. And the country wise also you'll find it out. Okay, everything contains the top level domain. Okay, so when you see the top level domain, the top level domains has a naming convention also. Suppose I'll search for .com, suppose. Okay, suppose let me search for .com. What is this? Okay, so .com is the generic one. Okay, and if you see .cn, .in, .co, right, these are the country code. These are the country code. But .com is the generic and very signed global registry services. If I search for .in, it will have country code National Internet Exchange of India. So every top level domain has a name and the generic or country code, the type of top level domains, you can find it out. Okay, the type of domain type and the TLD manager, the name, what is the naming convention of that. Okay, now what we'll see, let's move on to set up some records and see more details about that. So before moving to see top level domains, so when we are going to purchase a domain, so suppose you want to purchase a domain with a name. Suppose Venkat wants to purchase a domain with his name like Venkat.com, right? So what will happen? Venkat has to go to the registrar. He has to go to registrar who provides the domain registration, who makes the domain registration. Then he will go and purchase the domain. So to purchase a domain, there should be a third party who will help you to purchase the domain, and that domain will be registered with the registrar. So here Amazon also works as a registrar. AWS also works as a registrar for us. Amazon provides a registration. If you are going to buy any domain, you can use Route 53 service to buy a domain also. Okay, to buy a domain. So what happens? What is this domain registers? A registrar is an authority that can assign domain names directly under one or more top level domains. These domains are registered with Inter-NIC, a service of ICANN, that Internet Corporation for Assigned Names, which enforce uniqueness of domain names across the Internet. So they ensure this service, right? IC Internet Corporation, they ensure that whatever domain you are purchasing should be unique over the globe, right? In the world, it should be unique. Each domain name gets registered in a central database that is called as whois database, known as the whois database. If you want to search for the whois database, you'll find it out the domain names, and it gets registered in the central database. So that's why some register will be there, like you would have seen like godaddy.com, Amazon, bigrock.in, Hostinger, etc. Lots of other domain registers in the market. Actually, small startup companies also, they're providing domains. If you go, they're providing very cheap rates. The first time they're providing very cheap, and then next honor they'll keep you charging. Okay, so here are the some famous registered GoDaddy, and if you go for Amazon, so I have all my websites and all my domains, whatever I have purchased, I purchased through Amazon only. Okay, I have purchased through Amazon and GoDaddy. Both I have through Amazon and GoDaddy. So if tomorrow if you want to purchase something, you can use any one of the register to purchase one domain for you. Okay, so next is, let's see what is the records we discussed about this, right? Let's see more details about each record. Okay, so what the first is actually the SOA, that is called SOA, start of authority record. So what is this start of authority record? The start of authority records stores the information about the name of the server that supplied the data for the zone, and the administrator of the zone, the current version of the data file, the default number of seconds for the time to live file, and the resource records. So all these informations being recorded by the start of authority record. It will be maintained by the SOA records. And the name server, what they do actually, they are used by the top level domain servers to direct traffic to the content DNS server, which contains the authoritative DNS records. Suppose the name server, what it does actually, main work is it resolves the user friendly name, that is suppose ranjishwain.com, to the IP addresses. Okay, so the records who takes care actually, the name server, NS, the name server records, everything will be set up in the name server records. So the most important function of DNS server is the translation or resolution of human memorable domain names and the host names into corresponding IP addresses. Okay, so whatever the host name, your company server, whenever you are trying to connect, okay, any one of the server, you will be working multiple clients, multiple, they will have one host name, domain name, right? If you see that host name, when you try to connect to the host name, it will be resolved to one IP addresses. Okay, simple things. If you just try to ping any server, right, it will see. Suppose if I do ping uh, runzitsoin.com, see, it gives some bytes address from this internet, from this address. Okay, it gives from this address. Similarly, if I ping google.com, it also gives informations and the packets being received from this IP addresses. It is getting, we typed only google.com, right? But it gets resolved to the IP addresses and it will give the information from that particular server. The heartbeats, right? It will be connecting to the server and pinging. Now, so what happens? So it is just converts the translations being done in the DNS number. The second principal namespace of the internet, which is used to identify and locate computer system and resources on the internet. So this is main important role of IP addresses to provide the address of your system. Okay, what is a record? An A record is the fundamental type of DNS record. The A in A record stands for address. When you set up the A record, that means you are setting up the address of the domain, address of the server. So you have to set off the domain name with a particular address. If you don't set up the particular, whenever you are sending a letter, before, like we nowadays everyone using the mobile connection, that is okay. But before we are sending the letters, right, inland letter or any kind of postcard or anything. So we have to specify one address particular to that. Then that address, based on that address, the postman will deliver the letters to your home. Similarly here, when you give an address to your domain name or host name, your host name, when you enter, that will reach based on the address set up in the background. Okay, that same A record will be set up. So another example, if you see the telephone directory, here I have given one image of a telephone directory, right? If you see the telephone directory, every telephone directory will have the index, right? Every index, telephone index records will be there. The particular person name or any kind of any area, any shop, whatever name will be there, and near to that name, it will have one phone numbers. That address will be there. This particular name will have this address. This particular name will have this phone number. Is the address. Okay, that is, we can relate as this one. Then how this A record works? How this A record works? So let's see. Suppose I'm just typing from my laptop. Okay. Suppose typed ranjitswine.com. What will happen? The DNS request sent from my browser and it will be hit by the Route 50. Route 53 will resolve this ranjitswine.com, and based on the A record setup, it will provide the IP address of the server. Okay, it will provide, send back the IP address of the server, that is URL to IP. So it converts the URL to IP addresses. The Route 53. Suppose I typed here on this one.com, the Route 53 accept the domain name, then it converts to the IP addresses. And then what happens? The IP addresses is being sent to the server where exactly the address is. So it converts to, it goes to the application server, and this application server will have this server applications hosted on this particular server of these IP addresses, and then you'll get the response back. Okay, so this is how the A records work, and who does all this works? The Route 53. The Route 53 in case of AWS. I'm talking in case of AWS. For other services, there might be some other services. Okay, they will be using in the backend. Now, if you see some other records, now you understood how A records works. Okay, how A records works and how you do the setups. Okay, now if you think about the canonical name, the C name. in your company, whenever you will be working, right, you'll be finding lots of C names will be there, canonical names. Okay, so what is this canonical name? Can be used to resolve one domain to another domain. Like the example I gave, like suppose I have a mobile domain, suppose m.ranjitswine.com, and this is used when user browse the domain using their mobile phones. Okay, suppose I can use mobile.ranjitswine.com or aim.ranjitswine, whatever I use, but it will result to one server, one URL, right? So the same address, it will be resolved to the same address. Whatever you use, aim dot or mobile dot, but it will resolve into the same. This is the canonical name, C name. Then what is the alias record? The alias records are used to map resource record sets in your hosted zone to Elastic Load Balancer, CloudFront Distributor, or S3 buckets that are configured as websites. So it works like CNAME record where we can map one DNS to another target DNS. Suppose if I want to map this ranjitswine.com to one of the AWS S3 resources. So what I can do, I can just type it like this and I can set the records and it will be mapped to that. Okay. Now you saw how these records been done. Okay. Now let me show you the lab how we can do the setups. Let me connect to the AWS management console. Okay, so this is my personal account. So I have made it secure using MFA. So hope you guys also know how to use the MFA and activate MFA in your account. Okay, so this account, if I go where I can find Route 53, you will have in the networking and content delivery sections. Yeah, networking and content delivery sections. Here you will find Route 53, where we had learned about the cloud front. There you will find the Route 53. Okay, just click on this Route 53. Okay, so now you can see it here. So they have now changed the dashboard. It looks very different now. So every time they keep changing their dashboards for all the services and all, they are trying to make it better and in some ways. Okay, and here if you see the Route 53 dashboard, right? I have two domains purchased in this account. In this account, I have two domain purchased, and those domains I have hosted also. So two domains been hosted. So I can see here two hosted zones. Okay, so let's see what is this domain looks like. If you just click on this domains, so in the registered domains, I have two domains. It's called both are called ranjitswine.com and one other one more is marlinbluetech.com. Okay, so both are actually purchased through Amazon only. So Amazon is my registered. I had purchased these two domains, two domain name from Amazon. Okay, so if I hit this marlinblue.com, marlinbluetech.com, okay, so it will just without my permission they give some advertise. Okay, BSNL. So here you can see this is suppose I have created my own domain here Okay, I just created, and Amazon itself I created registered one my domain, and then I hosted that this domain application is entirely into the Route 53. Using Route 53 I hosted also. So let me show you how we can register it. Okay, and even though if you have a domain purchased, if you have a domain purchased outside like godaddy.com or bigrock.in, from that register, if you have purchased, if you want to transfer also to Amazon, you can do that. Okay, so here you can see one transfer button will be there, transfer domain. Just click this transfer domain and provide the domain which you want to transfer. It's very simple, just provide. I don't have anything to transfer, so I'm not transferring it now. So you can just provide the domain name which you want to transfer. What you can say, you can transfer the registration for a domain from another register to Route 53. Another register to Route 53 you can transfer. For that you have to pay some amount also. For .com is $12. Okay, so let's see, this is for transferring a domain, but how will register a new domain? That's called this registered domain name. Suppose I want to search for a domain. Okay, let's see. Suppose I search for a ranjitswine.com and I check for this, it will not be available. Okay, the status is unavailable because I already have purchased this domain. Instead, they are just giving some suggestions. Instead, ranjitswine.com, you can go with all other things. So the charges also they have given per year. So this is per year, $12 per year. Okay, suppose Ranjit Patnaik wants to get one domain, so he can easily get it, Ranjit Patnaik. Okay, then check for this. It will be there, I believe. Yeah, it is there. Okay, yeah. So how we can go it? Just go and add to cart. Okay, and you can choose here what are the years you want to buy. So if you choose for more years, then they'll reduce some amount. Okay, so here, suppose I choose for 1 year, then you have to pay for $12. Then go continue, and just you have to provide few informations. Okay, about your registration information. Very simple. Just provide your address and everything, and then just click continue. Then it will be go, and then you have to pay, make the payment for this, and your registration will be done. So the verifications and purchase line will be there. So once you verify and purchase everything, it will take 30 minutes to get activated. Okay, so it will be activated within 30 minutes. So once it is activated, you will find your domain name in this page. It will be here. Okay, and it will see here activation will be there. And if you want to see any pending request, just go to this pending request sections, and you can find it out what is the status of your domain registrations. Okay, so once you go that, once you get that one, you need to set up. See, we just get the domain, but with the blank domain I cannot hold. Suppose I purchased a domain for ranjitpatnaik.com, but here in this ranjitpatnaik.com I have not set up any record. If I hit enter, then where it will go, where the internet traffic will go, there is no address set up with this. Okay, that's why it could not find the particular address. So for that, what we have to do, we have to host our domain to a hosted zone. So if I click this hosted zone, I'll have also two domains hosted. See, I have two hosted zones hosted here. Both are public, registrant.com and this, and this hosted ID, description, everything are there. So if you see here, this marlinbluetech.com has 16 record setup. It has 16 record setups, but this my own domain has only 5 records set up. Okay, now, if I go here, just click, suppose, let me show you how to set up the records, whatever we learned so far. How to set up the A record, how to set up the C name, how to set up the alias records. Okay, So first thing is to purchase the domain. So once you purchase the domain, you have to create a hosted zone. Okay, suppose I have created a hosted zone here. Let me just go to that. Okay, so this is my hosted zone, and here are the records setup. Here are the records setup. See, here I have set up one a record. Here I have set up one a record. Suppose when I type ranjitswain.com, it will be routed to this address. It will be routed to this address. Okay. Similarly, it has the name server, NS name server record, and the name server. Remember, by default, when you created hosted zone, this SOA record and NS record will be created automatically by MHL. You don't have to set up all these three: TXT, SOA, and NS. We don't have to create. Sorry, not TXT. TXT is different. So these two you don't have to set up. It will be created by Amazon. Okay, it will be created by Amazon. So if you see the NS records, if you hit this server, this actually being hosted on these four different servers. Okay. Similarly, I have set up also another A record. Okay, I have set up also another A record, which is www.ranjitswain.com. So if you type ranjitswain.com, it will be routed to same address. If you see www.ranjitswain.com also, it will be routed to the same server. Okay. Now let's see how we can create a record. Okay. If I select, suppose this A record here, you can find it about the record name, the value. Okay, so let me close this. Let me create one fresh record for you. Create record. Suppose I want to create a domain for create a domain for URL for my mobile applications. Okay, so what I'll do, type here, just type suppose mobile. It will be mobile.ranjitswain.com. Okay, or if you are into type aim, or if I have a blog.ranjitswain.com, so I can type blog dot then. And suppose I want to send one, what type of record you want, sorry, please, what type of record you want to set up. So you have to just click, either you want to go for a record, C name, canonical, what routes traffic to another domain name, or you can to set up uh, the name CA, right? All these available here. You can select whatever you want. Suppose I will set up one a record here. Okay, and a record, what it does, route traffic to an IPv4 address. So I want this blog.ranjitswain.com should go to one of the address. Okay, so let me show you one real-time example. For that, what I need to do, let me create one server quickly. Okay, no address. So I'm quickly creating one instance over here. Okay, just bear a few seconds with me. So T2 micro, okay, and storage. Okay, before that, let me do the user data sections. Okay, bootstraps delete, and here I'm just trying to install some applications here. Okay, so bin bus, so yum update, like y yum install install httpd. Okay, Yeah. What I'll do, system CTL. Okay, what I'm going to do, let's gem install HTTPD. What I'm going to do, just typing echo something, want some image HTML h1 something. Okay, and then I need to suppose start systemctl. Okay, start httpd systemctl start httpd. Now this is what going to be executed. Now what I'm sorry, here I have to redirect, right? uh, I need to redirect. Okay, the address I have to give, right? Path var www html and index.html. So let's create it. Add storage tag and face security id. So let me select nothing is there. So let me create one security. Okay, let's have default and add one custom here, 80. Okay, so anyone preview and launch. Okay, no key pair for this account. I have cleaned out everything. Create a new key pair, RSA. This is my personal account. Second, put it. Okay, so now my instance is getting ready. 1 second. Okay, let's see whether this is working fine or not. Okay, see, that means it is installed and working properly. See, hello route 53, it gives us the result. So this is the IP address. I need to redirect the route 53. Suppose this blog.transitpoint.com, right? I'm going to route to this address. This is my server now. This server, when I give this URL, it should resolve to this IP addresses. Okay, and let's the TTL is time to live on the web. It's 300 seconds, and the routing policy we'll discuss in our next slides. What is this policies and all? We have weighted geolocation, latency, failover, multi-value answers, all this we'll discuss in our next slides. Okay, what is this routing policy? So for the time being, I just give a simple routing policy and then just hit create record. Okay, so what happened, it's just see, it created one record. It's called blog.ranjitswine.com. Okay, it's called blog.ranjitswine.com. Suppose if I hit enter, suppose if I type blog.ranjitswine.com, what will happen? Let's see. If I just type here blog.ranjitswine.com. See what happens here, blog.ranjitswine.com. It gives me hello route 53. So where it gets the route 53? Hello route 53 is installed in this server, is installed in these EC2 instances. So this URL is now connected to the this server. So here whatever you want, you can just.
So Ranjit, one question.
Yes, this one.
Yeah, $12 per year they charge, right?
Yes.
For each. So if you cancel in between, so they still charge that much, or what they do?
Yes, the whatever the $12 you have paid, right? That will be gone. So they'll not refund you. So the $12 will be per year itself. Per year you have to pay. Once we paid it in between, if you cancel, they will not refund you.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
So let me just connect to this server now. Suppose here I'm just going to type something. Let me just modify. Okay. So okay. So if I just hit let me close this. Okay, so it gives me hello route 53 and welcome to my blog. Okay, so that is the application, web application it hit. Okay, suppose same thing, right? If I want to create one alias record, so what will happen? So let me go and create. If I go here and let me create one more record, okay, and here suppose here I get blog, and suppose here I'll give anything like suppose me.ranjit.com route 53, and here you can see one alias, right? Just hit on this alias here. Okay, route traffic to, you have to choose the endpoint where you want to, either alias s3 website endpoint or any one of the distribution. If you want to route it, you can create the routing. Okay, same thing you can do it. Now I'm not going to create any alias. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead, same a record. Okay, now let me just copy this, set this a record 53 simple create records. So now the create. So now how many records I have? I have also main.transitman.com simple records, and this is both are pointing to the same address. Okay. Now if I hit instead, blog is there already. So few people will be hitting blog, and they will be landed to this. And if we'll hit me.ranjitswine.com, it will also go to the same application. It will also go to the same application. See, this way you can do the setups. Okay, this is how this is how the records you will do setup here. Okay, let me delete these records which is not required. Suppose these records are not required for me, I'll delete it. Delete records. Okay, delete records and filter records property value. Delete records permanently. This cannot be undone. Your domain might become unavailable on the internet. That is fine. Okay, so okay, these records are now deleted. Okay, now let me show you other domain, and that has lot more other records set off. Okay, so if I go to marlinblue.com, here we have 16 records set up, and these 16 records set up for more for mailbox also. Okay, I have set up emails for this from my company. So if you see here, the lots of, see, canonical names, c names. What is that? If you type e.marlinblue or email.marlinblue, what will happen? Suppose if I type email.marlinblue, it will allow me to log into my mailbox of my mail. So it is going to the GoDaddy. So here I have done a hybrid kind of things. What setups I have done? Here are the setups I have done, one hybrid kind of thing. So if you see here, it is connecting to the GoDaddy's thing. Because what happens here, the marlinblue.com I have purchased from Amazon. But the mail service I have purchased from GoDaddy. The mail service I have purchased from GoDaddy. Then I have integrated both GoDaddy and Amazon into this domain. So whenever I type this, and I can just sign in my suppose hr.com. The password I forgot. Okay, fine. So you can just try to log in it. Either you can type email.marlinblue.tech.com or e.marlinblue, sorry, marlinbluetech.com. Anyway, it will be redirect to the same. See, it is going to the same login page, same mail, same mailbox login page. It is going either e.marlinbluetech or email. So that is called your canonical name setups. Okay, so now you are very much clear about the record setups and all. I'm not showing any further on that. It's very easy. Whatever you, if you understand clearly what you want to do, you can set up the one. Okay, now let me show you what are the policies. Okay, what are the policies? So here also we'll see about the load balancing and the different policies. Okay, before that, let me terminate this one, because this account is my 5 years old account. Okay, this account, and I'm paying almost every year 5 to 6 thousand for this account. If I run one more server and it is not under free tier, I have to pay for that. So let me just terminate it. Okay, I terminated my system. Okay, fine. So now let's discuss about,
Ranjit, can you go to your domain ranjitswine.com?
yes, you need to domain or record you want to see.
Yeah, in that records I want to see.
Okay.
So in that first one, ranjitswine.com, if I hit that ranjitswine.com, you are redirecting to the
S3 bucket, right?
Yes,
Can you open that S3 bucket?
I'll show you that has some confidential data. I'll show you later. Okay, so this is, but in I'll show you how to create it. But this bucket, I'll show you, no problem, because these sessions are recorded, no, so it will be given all the information to you.
It is like all your web-based content will be stored in the S3 bucket.
Exactly. It will be the all the web-based content. It will be stored. I'll show you how it is
Okay, okay.
can be done. Okay, so don't worry. When we create the route, once we cover this routing policy, also I'll show you that time. Anyway, these are all the content, only web-based content, but it is what happens. This only contains. Okay, let me show you. That's fine, no problem.
Or else can we do, suppose if you copy one image into a bucket and if you hit that, suppose you have created blog.ranjiswain.com, there
So if you
we can
want,
redirect to S3 bucket.
okay, that's fine. Okay, guys. So Siva Prasad, right? Not Tanmay. What? So,
Venkat.
hey, Venkat, sorry. Okay. Yeah, Venkat. So, okay, Venkat wants to see how it is getting redirect to the S3. Okay. So, let me show him what I'm going to do. Let me create one more record in this. Okay. Suppose, let me create one more record. It's called, suppose, okay, same thing. Suppose blog I created. But instead, what I have to set up here, instead of IP addresses, I need to set up the Amazon S3 resource name. Okay, so what I have to do now, let's go to my Amazon S3, go to my Amazon S3. Okay, here you can see, guys, right? In my S3, I have buckets called ranjitswine.com, www.ranjitswine.com, www.malinbluetech.com, and malinblue. So all these actually I have hosted in S3, and that is absolutely free, guys. Okay, only I am paying for hosted zones, not I am paying for the server. Okay, I am only paying for the hosted zone, not for the server. Remember, okay. So uh, that is called actually the static website. So whatever you are going to host, that will be your static website. That cannot be dynamic. I'll show you how to host a static websites. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here, let's create one called blog.transitswine.com here, one bucket name. Okay. I'm going to create a bucket. It's called blog.ranjitswine.com. Here I'll put all the blog related informations. Okay. Now what I'm going to send shoots the bucket. Okay, that's fine. And blog, I need to make it public, otherwise it will not be accessible. I acknowledge it. Okay. So that's fine. And let's enable the bucket versioning server here. Okay. Now create bucket. So my bucket is now created called blog.ranjitswine.com. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, simply I'm going to create some, suppose, index.html file. Let me create one index.html file and put in the bucket and see. Yes. Okay. So what I have to do, I have to put that file in this blog.ranjitswan.com. Okay. Now let me upload that file. So check the permissions, grant public read access, upload it. Okay. So to make sure whether we can access this index.html, just sorry. And we have this object URL, right? So just copy this object URL. Let me see whether we can access this or not. Yeah, we can access this bucket. Hello, welcome to my wall. Okay. Now let me let me set up the records. So how we'll set up these records? We need to get the h3appsouth1.com. This is the bucket name, right? This is the h3.app.south1. So if I go and check it here, suppose let me just copy this one.
I think you need to enable alias.
That's fine, no problem. Okay, so now I am showing in both ways by A records and then creating alias. So if you create alias, then you have to directly set up the endpoint. You no need to do that. Okay, let me select the end alias. Here you can see the S3 website endpoint. Just click this one and choose the region, which region we have kept it, right? So we kept it, suppose, in Mumbai region, right? Where is the Mumbai region? Asia Pacific, Mumbai, right? So endpoint. So we have to provide the endpoint. Why it is cannot be alias to it? Cannot retrieve endpoint suggestions. Okay. So we have to get the endpoint. This is the tag versions object URL. Where is the exactly endpoint? Okay, we can just copy this. Okay. Now simply save it, create record. Not valid S3 website. This is not a website waypoint. Oh, sorry. You have to give the bucket endpoint, right? So access points. One second. Where is the endpoint? Animation is source name. This is not the endpoint, right? Venkat, do you know where we can get the endpoint? This is also not a valid endpoint. This is the ARN number. Why is the endpoint? Properties, permissions, metrics, index.html, its versions 10 digit. Okay, here we don't have, one second, remove this alias. Let's set off something. I just create record. It's a bad request. It should not be the request actually. Endpoints field is required to have value. So let me copy this. I should have paste this one. What is happening? So this is the value we have to put it here. So remember guys, when you are putting any static website, the URL name should be s3 hyphen website, and then the region name, and then Amazon AWS s3, sorry, Amazon AWS.com. Okay, so this is the value you have to provide. Just create record, invalid change batch 400. Oh my god, it should be only taking. Now it is created. Okay, so that is a record. If you don't give alias, it will not take the value. Now it took blog dot and it provided this s3 website.com, right? So now let me hit this blog.ranjishman.com. Okay, what it says, the specified bucket does not have a website configurations. Request ID is okay. It does not have a website configurations. Okay, fine. Okay, so for static websites, right? For static website, what you have to do, we have a different mechanism for static websites. Okay, let me just AWS static website hosting S3. Search for this, hosting a static website using Amazon S3. Okay, so here you have to provide using web hosting static website like website endpoints. Okay, see what is this endpoint, right? S3 website dash bucket name S3. So this is the endpoint. The endpoint, whatever we gave actually was wrong. Depending on your region, your Amazon S3 website endpoint follows one of these two format. Okay, so we have to provide this format. Let me modify the bucket here, not record. Okay, so edit record here. Instead of this, I have to put uh, website and the region. The region is AP South 1, right? AP South 1, and S3 website, and the bucket name. The bucket name is suppose blog dot ranjitswara.com. Let's save it. What is this? It's not a valid website endpoint. Website endpoint examples. Why it is not taking? Mm, Let me try 1 second. It should be HTTP. But whatever I'm doing, actually, this is not the right way to do. I'll show you the right way. 1 second. It should be index.html. Still, it is not valid. Okay, guys, maybe there is something wrong is going on. I'm not able to set off this alias the record. Okay, so just let me delete this. Will otherwise confuse something. Something. So let me see how this is set up actually. The same way it is set up like s3 website dot app dot amazon s3 dot com dot. Okay, let me copy this. Mhm. Okay, guys, not sure why it is not taking. Okay, we'll see it maybe sometimes later. Okay, Venkat, you just try to do that. Okay, so guys, you know how to do that. Okay, anyway, if you want to do the testing, you need to first purchase the domain. Okay, without the domain, you cannot do it. So what you do if you have no, you want to do all kind of practices and all, better just go for a domain and make your name as a domain like venkat.com or ranjitpatnaik.com, anything. Just try to make a domain and try to make small applications using HTML and PHP and make your websites. You can get the websites template freely over the internet. You can download and just put it in the S3 bucket. So maybe in our next classes, I'll show you how to create the static website and post into the S3. So here, whatever actually is given here, right? Posting a website, posting a static website. You just follow this document because when I hosted, I had followed this documentation, but they have changed lots of things actually, which is configuring the index document and all. So just follow and just read through all these documents. Okay, read through all these documents, whatever is required, just go through that, and you'll find how to create that. Okay, 1 second. Let me ping you. Okay.
One small doubt, Ranjit.
Yeah, yeah, please.
So in this endpoint, you are giving the bucket name, right? So in that bucket, you have to give your bucket, or can we give my bucket or others bucket name also?
Any bucket name you can provide. You can provide any bucket name. Okay.
Okay, suppose if I give my bucket name, public access, it will be accessible.
Exactly. So you have to provide the public access. Okay. So if you go and check these buckets, right, what are the buckets I have created here, it will everything has actually the public accesses. Without public accesses, you cannot access. So I have made this entire bucket as public. So let me just modify this. This is actually wrong. Whatever I see, all these documents have all my image files, right? Sorry, all the websites content index.html, whatever the application website, all the website contains is this in this marlinboutique.com, and it is publicly accessible. So let me revoke these permissions. Everyone come to the systems. Bucket policy. If I delete this policy, I think the website will not be accessible. But let me check it. So if I go here, still okay. So it is now not accessible. It is throwing error. Okay. It is now not accessible because I removed the public access. Now let me just recorrect it. Anyway, it has only public read access only. Okay. 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 Okay, fine. So this is how you have to set up the A records. Okay, not only A records, all what type of records you want to set it, you can set it up over here. So if you see here, when you select alias record, right? Alias record, you can find it out what details you have, right? If you want to get one API gateway. So guys, you'll be seeing, right? Suppose you are making one payment gateway. So you are making a payment gateway. Suppose I want to make this, suppose pay.ranjitswine.com, and I'll select the payment gateway if I have an API available created for this payment. Suppose if you want to make some payment to me, suppose I make pay.ranjitswine.com, and I can set up a payment gateway, and then you can make payment whatever you want. So before that, you should have this API gateway created. Okay, payment gateway created. Okay, like this you can set up whatever the records you want. So suppose whenever someone is going to pay you, they can use pay.transition.com, or in your website, in a web page, you can provide a link, and through that link they can click it and it will redirect to the payment gateway page. Okay, in that way you can do the setups. So now let's see what are kind of routing policies available, and what is this routing policy and what type of policies available. Okay, so we have simple routing policy, the policy whatever we saw right here, routing policy, we have simple routing policy. So what the simple routing policy does, so if we choose the simple routing policy, we can only have one record with multiple IP addresses. We have only one record with multiple IP addresses. If we specify multiple values in a record, Route 53 returns all values to the user in a random order. What happens here? Do you understand, guys? What is that? Let me show you. Suppose here I just want pay.transition.com, okay, and here I can give 13.12.23.2. So what happens here? I gave three IP addresses. I gave three IP addresses. So what will happen if somebody hits pay.transistoin.com, any one of the server available, it will redirect to that server. It will redirect to that server. That is called simple routing policy. So if you choose the simple routing policy, we can only have one record with multiple IP addresses. So here, if you see, we have typing that, and Route 53 will decide where to go, whether this and this one, multiple. If you have 5 IP addresses, it will random order, it will send the values in the random order. When you hit pay.transition in any one of the IP addresses, it will be get result. Okay, all these server will have the same payment gateway or same application will be hosted. This is simple routing policy. Okay, so what is the next thing was weighted routing policy. So guys, remember here in routing 53, we'll see how the load balancing can be achieved based on the URL and based on the servers. Okay. So here what happens here, weighted routing policy allows us to split our traffic based on different weights assigned, so here in the routing policy, if you set up like for this region, if you want only 20% traffic will go to this server and 80% traffic will go to this server. So what happens, route 53 based on the weightage setup, it will go to that particular server. Okay, now let's see the weighted policy. And here suppose the weighted policy for pay.transition, suppose I just give, and here you have to give value only one IP address, you have to provide it here and give the weightage here. The weight can be a number between 0 and 255. If you specify 0, route 53 stops responding to DNS queries using this record. So 0 and 255, so you have to specify the weightage here. Based on the weightage, and you will do one kind of health check if you want to, it is optional. Set up the record ID, and what happens, based on the weightage set up here, the traffic will redirect to this server. Okay, now next, suppose this is weightage is very simple to set up. And now one more is called latency based routing. So latency based routing, what it happens, allows you to route your traffic based on the network latency. So whenever you do a latency check, right? So suppose if I do some speed test here, speed test.net, right? Suppose I want to check my speed of my internet, it will be very slow anyway. So here, if I just click go, it will give you some ping. It will show the latency of your network. Okay, so this ping shows you the latency for milliseconds. Okay, so it's connecting. See, it is 96 now. It is 96, which is very high. Okay, 96. Now, so if you see the latency, what happens here, based on the lowest network latency, suppose here is whatever I did, it is 96. 96 actually is high. Okay, so 96 means it is it's very less response, the network is very slow. If the latency is low, suppose 15, 30 or 20, that means you have a high network speed. 96 is too much, that means I have low network speed. Okay, now what happens, to use latency based routing, you need to create a latency resource record set for Amazon